Respect My Crown is a community designed to support women who desire to step into the abundance that awaits them. We know that now is the time to manifest our visions, realize our dreams, and accomplish our goals. Respect My Crown is a support system that encourages women to deepen in spirituality, sisterhood, accountability, and service. Our very special guest today is an award-winning content and branding expert. She's held senior leadership roles at ESPN, Ebony Magazine, Harper's Bazaar, Teen People, Essence, and Honey Magazine. She is currently the Chief Content Officer for The Griot, which is a leading digital media brand that serves the African American audience. She is also EVP Digital for Byron Allen's Entertainment Studios, The Griot's parent company. This fabulous woman is an author of an empowering advice book for women, Get Yours, How to Have Everything You Ever Dreamed of, and more. Amy and I have something in common. We are both single mommies of preteens. Lord help us. Please help us. Welcome, Amy Dubois Barnett, to the show. How are you?
I'm tired. I'm the single mom of a preteen.
Okay. The struggle is so real. Let me tell you, I first met Amy back in 2001. She would absolutely never remember this, but I had moved to New York with no job. $1,500 and a coconut smile was all I had. After 3 months of grinding hard, I secured what I had believed at the time was my dream job. I was offered the PM drive shift at WBLS in New York, which is, for those people who don't know, it's New York's heritage R&B station. And my first week there, I was invited to a party for Honey Magazine. And Amy, as the editor-in-chief, she came on board with this mission to gear the magazine towards my age group at the time. She gave the magazine this bold new look, articles that represented my voice, my lifestyle. And I could be wrong, Amy, you tell me, but I haven't seen anything like it since. Have you?
I miss Honey Magazine so much. I mean, that brand was unique. Like, we came along and we just disrupted media at the time because, back then the only major media brand that was speaking to Black women was Essence, and
right.
I loved Essence, and I ran the style department at Essence for a little while in their lifestyle department, but there was just nothing that was talking to, ambitious, fun, adventure-seeking, risk-taking, women in their, women of color in their 20s,
right.
20s and 30s. There was just nothing out there. So, we just created like a community, like a tribe.
We look at social media right now, and let's just keep it real, Amy. Everybody and their mom is using the hashtag Girlboss, right? And we know that some people maybe really are girl bosses, and then some people really want to be, but they may not have the qualities that it takes. And we know that networking is one. Can you give some tips to women who are tuning in who want to be the ultimate girl boss on how to network? Because it's an uncomfortable thing for people.
Absolutely. Networking is the way that you're going to become a girl boss. It is the way to get ahead. It is, I don't want to say the only way, but without networking, I don't see how you're going to ever do it, right? So there's a lot of things that characteristics of girl bosses, but the one consistent one is being able to network.
Yeah.
So, what that really means is, obviously you need, people around you who are going to support your efforts. You need for people to see who you are and understand what you're about in order for opportunities to flow your way, right? And then you need people to kind of be on your team, when you're trying to get whatever it is off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about networking is that you can't wait until you need a relationship to establish a relationship. You have to establish your relationships before you need them. I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't really process is that these are relationships.
Yeah.
I have relationships. I don't just have people I can call and whatever. I have those too, I guess. If I really had to make a call, I could. Those kind of people. But
yeah.
I have a lot of relationships. Like you said, you and I met back in 2001.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You called me, right, to do this, right, which I'm so happy to do it. I'm super psyched that you invited me, and I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.
But when you called me, I was like, oh, of course, because we've known each other a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's so true.
And that's what it was. So when I was, networking in the magazine industry, for example, to get the Teen People job, there was an industry organization called the Association of the National, what was it? The American Association of Magazine Editors, and it was a prestigious organization. The acronym, is ASME, and it was a very prestigious organization comprised of editors who were either like at the top two positions on the masthead, so either executive editors or editors in chief.
Mm.
And there were like almost no black people like in it. Like
I can
maybe,
imagine.
Like, it was crazy. It was like bananas. It was like looked like Alabama, like in 1960. It was so crazy. And so I was like, okay, let me fight to be part of this organization. So when I was editor-in-chief of Honey, right, which is like this little magazine that nobody had heard of, until they did hear of it.
Yeah.
But when they didn't hear of it, when they didn't know what it was, I kind of fought to get in ASME. And then when I was, and everybody was like, who is this person and why is she here? And then when I was in ASME, I made a point to meet everybody.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going to meet everybody. I'm going to impress them. And then they started having me judge, the National Magazine Awards, the Ellys.
Oh.
And so I was judging the Ellys, and they were really impressed with me. They were like, "Oh, she's super smart. Wow." And so then it was.
Look at this smart black girl.
Literally, like I'm gonna kiss her. Oh my God! Look at her. She really has things to say. Like she's really contributing meaningfully to this conversation.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? And that was part of it too. They didn't even, in the industry, part of the reason why we're not at the top of mainstream mastheads is because people think that we black people can only run black or urban brands. They don't even, oftentimes don't consider us, for these mainstream brands because they don't think that we can speak to the audience.
Right.
Right. And so it was through ASME that I met, some people at Time Inc., right, who put me in touch with Isolde Motley, who was at the time the corporate editor, who then, started to have, get to know me and then, ultimately offered me the Teen People job after, of course, I put together a huge, impressive proposal.
Yes.
But, I mean, that's how that came about. Had I not sort of worked my way into ASME and then worked the room and met everybody and then got on the, committees to judge the Ellys and impressed everybody and then met the people at Time Inc. and then ultimately met Isolde Motley, I would never have been offered that opportunity, which was, Honey was probably the career-changing opportunity, but Teen People was the career-amplifying opportunity. It was the most,
I love it.
So, when you network, it's important to make the relationships before you need them, right? So, definitely get to know people, not in a yucky, kind of, sort of, manipulative kind of way, because that's never cool.
Right.
You just want to get to know people and just, be cool. And then if there's somebody who you really, want to get to know further for your career, you can follow up after you meet them, right? There's the people who are your colleagues, who are your peers, that you can just sort of be friends with, be cool with, and then there's the people who you looking to for mentorship. And you never want to be like, oh, please be my mentor. Like that's
oh, that's
never
the
worked.
worst.
Yeah, that's always exhausting. Like, don't do that. But after you meet somebody impressive, you can ask for their contact information, or you can follow up by email. Don't do it too often because that's annoying, but do it every now and then. Update the person on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Congratulate the person on their accomplishments. Whenever you have something to reach out to, so hey, by the way, I just want to let you know I've recently, blah blah blah. I thought we spoke about that when we met at the lunch, and I thought that you would like to know because you encouraged me to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so when you do that for a while, that's how you kind of establish a relationship. So then if you need something at some point, you can reach out to that person who you've been, kind of lately, contacting, to congratulate them, to update them on your progress, et cetera. You can reach out and say, oh, hey, I was curious about the, whatever it is.
Yep.
I was thinking you might offer me you might have some input on this. Is there any way we could schedule a 10-minute phone call?
Right.
Or something like that.
That's so good.
And people are generally kind, actually.
Mm-hmm. Right.
People are generally kind and generally generous, and if you do it that way and say, hey, after establishing a relationship and, reaching out infrequently and being, cool, if eventually you say, hey, can we schedule a 10-minute phone call? For the most part, people will do it.
Now, there's no doubt that your parents helped to set the tone for your work ethic and even leaving a legacy behind. For those of you who don't know, Amy's mother was the first Black woman to head a major research university when she was named president of U of H, University of Houston, back in 1990, I think. And, I'm just curious to know, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind for your son?
I am super proud, of the work that I've been able to do. I'm really so happy with my career, and I'm proud of the impact, that I've had on our community. I talk to my son, who's 12, all the time about goals, and I always tell him, like, money is an awful goal. In fact, I just posted something today on social media. At Amy D. Barnett on Twitter and Amy Dubois Barnett on IG. But I just posted something today about money being a terrible goal, because it won't get you the money, and it just won't get you the happiness, and you won't be impactful. And so I always tell them, like, thing number one is to figure out how you can be positively impactful, in this life, in this world, in this universe. Like, how are you going to be a positive force, for yourself, for your community, for everybody, So think about that. And I feel really good about the positivity that I've brought to our community. Bottom line, I have spoken to, at this point, millions of Black folks and people of color and women, about values and important issues, political issues, about personal wealth building, about living for their happiness and being independent and being goal oriented. And I think that is ultimately my legacy. I mean, I've had some really great groundbreaking career moments that I'm proud of, but I'm just more proud of this overarching impact that I feel that I've had.
That's awesome.
I couldn't be more proud, and that's what I'm leaving my son.
Yeah. I'm proud of you too. I really am. I really am. We all have our struggles as single, being a single mom, period, is just, the struggle is real, and then when you're in an industry that is 24 hours a day and nonstop. Amy, tell us, how do you really balance motherhood, or is there even a balance to motherhood at all?
As you mentioned, my mom had a big job, and was always working, and so I was really, 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 really fortunate to grow up watching that and watching her, because it showed me that you can have a big job and you can be busy, you can work a lot and still be a terrific mom. And as a matter of fact, that is something that I think improves your ability to be a mother. I mean, there's, I don't have maybe as much time like with my son as somebody who's a stay-at-home mom, or perhaps somebody who works fewer hours or has to travel less, what have you. But I am giving him an example. I'm giving him an example of goal orientation, tenacity, and work ethic, and strong female leadership. And I'm also able to focus more on him when I'm with him. And to be clear, let me also say this. I mean, people, I want to be clear. Like, there's no real balancing of everything. I mean, I'm saying this, and I mean it. I mean what I'm saying, and I do believe that the example I'm giving and that is worth so much. I mean, it's so rare, especially in our community, and it's worth so much. So I'm really proud of that. But to be clear, I mean, balance is like an illusion. I mean, we're just all like spinning the plates. I mean, there's nobody out there who's like, I've got it perfectly balanced. I mean, that's not.
It's just not real. It's what works for you, right? What works for you might not work for someone else, but that's your version of balancing.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. And we all have to make different, decisions about how we spend our resources. Like maybe, I have to spend more on like babysitting, or I have to, bring in an au pair, because I can't, be there at this time, but I don't spend as much on, this over here, or maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe I made the choice, for example, to take my son, to Asia on a vacation this summer, but I'm not spending more money over here, or because I spent that 2 weeks with him, I was able to travel for 3 weeks afterward, or, whatever.
Yeah,
and there's this decisions that you're able to make, and frankly, things that you're able to do. Like I tell Maxie sometimes, I'm like, okay, and when he's like, Mommy, I wish that you had more time, to spend with me, and I'm like, honey, I totally understand, or, he doesn't say that as much now, but when he was a little bit younger, Mommy, I wish you could pick me up after school every day, and I'm like, oh, honey, that would be so great, but I can't do that because of, the job, the kind of job that I have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And because of the job that I have, you went to the White House and you met the president.
Right.
You met President Obama.
Right. Yes.
I picked you up for after school every day. You wouldn't have gotten to go to the White House to be President Obama. So these are the kind of choices that we make in our life.
Yes. And I love that you can have those conversations, because I think being open about it releases the guilt that mothers have about, we feel like we should be able to do everything.
Just to really have, real conversations with kids about life.
Yeah.
My mom was a wonderful, amazing example for me, but she didn't really have those kinds of conversations with me, and then she passed away when I was young, and so when I was 22. And so I learned so much from her by example, but I wasn't able to really talk to her about just how she, her life and like how she got where she was and what her philosophy about, this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
And so I really do that with my son. I'm like, okay, let's just talk.
Yes.
Let's just talk about life. I'm going to tell you, here, kid, here's the truth.
Yes. With that being said, when you think about some of the tough times in your life, in that maybe your son witnessed, has there ever been a moment where you wanted to quit, and where it felt like nothing in the world is going right now? What was that moment like for you?
Ooh, I definitely went through a moment like that. I'll never forget. Several moments. Life is, tough. It's like very much, up and down, and there are, nobody's life is, just one kind of steady climb up a ladder, or, you get married and you stay married and everything's great forever, or, you get money and then you have the money forever because it just keeps going and nothing goes wrong.
But that's how it is on Instagram.
Right, exactly. Everybody's Instagram is like, social media it's the most burnished, shiny version of everybody's life.
Right.
So that's just not reality. Reality is that you just, you go up, you go down, you go left, you go right, you go up some more, you gotta, you do a somersault. It's complicated.
Yeah.
And so I guess my point is just I've had lots of moments, it just has not been like a steady rise up the ladder. I've had lots of moments of disappointment and success and failure, and, people have, disappointed me, and jobs have disappointed me, and I've disappointed myself, and, all sorts of times. And then there was one time in particular, I'll never forget it. I was, in brief, I was offered a very big job, went through the negotiating process, had a contract, signed the contract, and the person who was supposed to the CEO was supposed to, execute my contract on the other end, literally the last minute, the day he was supposed to sign it after 2 months of negotiating, called me up and was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, what?
Oh my gosh.
He was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I've decided you're too expensive.
Oh.
And it was at the top of the recession. You remember the recession in 2008 where literally media shut down. Like there were no jobs. Like, there was no hiring, nothing. Like nothing. I'd already quit my job. Oh. There was nobody was hiring for like a year and a half.
Gosh.
And I was literally out of a job because I had a big job. I had a really huge titles. I was, I'd already been editor-in-chief twice at that point. And so I was really, a top-level hire, and nobody was making them.
How did you push through it?
And so I was out of a job for over a year. It was just, it was so demoralizing, because I'd always, had a big job. Not always, but I'd, almost always had a big job, and I realized I was really defined by like success, and
oh gosh,
I felt so stupid and worthless, and then money was an issue, and I mean, it was so many things that were happening, and I was just like, ugh, I should just quit and go like sell seashells in Costa Rica. Like,
Yes, yes. Did you battle with depression at all?
Awful. Say again?
Did you battle with depression at all during that time?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the first time I'm really publicly saying it, but yeah, I went through a definite period of depression. It was like a good, I don't know, maybe six months to a year. I mean, It took me 6 months to like get diagnosed and then figure out, and like another 6 months to like break the cycle, you know, and come out of it. But it was a real low point in my life. And eventually I think I'm probably going to like write about it, or, you know, I want to like say more words so people understand that, you know, everybody goes through stuff.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, there's not a person out there that's just like, oh, my God, my life has been perfect. I mean, that's not a thing.
It's not.
You know, so, yeah,
that's why it's so important for, you know, people like you to be able to share your stories and even other influencers, because, you know, we are in this social media world, like you said, where we're looking at Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat, and it looks like everyone's life is so perfect. And I hate it, because it's, you know, we are creating these unrealistic expectations, especially for millennials, that this is life right here. And it's all a lie. It's such a facade. Right. You're getting snippets, like little, you know, highlight reel of people's lives, not what is really happening behind closed doors.
It's so true, you know, and I've actually started to think about that myself and my own, you know, sort of social media presence, because it is like I mean, I sort of treat it, you know, like an art canvas, you know. So I'm kind of, you know, posting things that I think are pretty, you know, or that I think kind of, you know, kind of add to the canvas of my life, or I'm, you know, whatever. And then I'm realizing that, you know what, this is presenting a picture that it's, you know, like so sort of like shiny and fun, and everything looks great, because, you know, and I'm like, well, how what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to put a picture of myself like, you know, like sad, like I've gained, you know, 10 pounds and I'm trying to lose it, like, so what am I? I mean, how do you actually portray that on social media? Like, it's really hard to give a balanced perspective.
It's so interesting you say that too, because so just this past May, I don't know if you even had a chance to see this, but on my Instagram, I came out and shared my story of being in this emotionally abusive relationship with this guy for the past year. And I talked about being depressed, and I talked about the pain. The person's a narcissist, and anybody who's experienced narcissistic abuse knows it's coming out of that relationship. It is so painful. It's so tough. And it was really hard for me to share that story, but I knew that it was necessary. Then there's like a boatload of people who just come out saying, oh my God, I am feeling exactly how you feel. I am depressed too. I am going through, you know, emotional abuse also, and I'm trying to figure out how to get out, or I'm going through this healing process and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, oh crap, there's a reason why, you know, it's so necessary for us to share these not so great moments, because people feel like they are alone. So I want to ask you, you know, how important a role does the media play in amplifying these messages that, you know, abuse, whether sexual, physical, emotional, are no longer acceptable? And how do you give women this platform to share their truth?
Well, I did see your story, and I did think it was really important and brave of you to be that transparent. And I definitely applaud you for it. And that was actually one of, I think, the things that made Honey magazine so successful back in the day, and has been, I think, a characteristic of my career, and to a certain degree my personal brand, which is that, you know, I really wanted at the time, and still want, to humanize success. You know, I still want to make it clear, you know, to women, to everybody, you know, that that success is not just like this you know, this one-way ladder up, and that people who are successful aren't, you know, like special in some kind of a way, that, makes them inaccessible or makes them different from everybody else,
Right.
or that shields them from problems in like personal problems or professional problems or financial problems or anything else. Like that's just not a thing. We are all human. We all have dreams and goals. We all have successes and failures, and we all have happiness and disappointment. And I've definitely when I was a honey, for example, I wrote a lot in my editor's letters about like the disappointments in my life and the failures, and that was a lot of what was in my book also.
Yeah.
My book, Get Yours: How to Have Everything You Ever Dreamed of and More. A lot of that was based on a lot of the book was based on my personal stories of not just success but also of failure. I was like, okay, here's how I was disappointed badly. Here's what I learned then. Here's what I know now, and here's what you can get from this experience. Here's how you can maybe avoid this mistake. Or if you make this mistake, just know that you're not alone. And so, I think that it's incredibly important for everybody to understand that we are all human, and there is nothing that makes successful people different. And I'm very much hopeful that all of us now have more of an ability to talk about our lives. And what I'm also grateful for, frankly, the Me Too movement for women.
Oh, gosh,
because I do think that's opened up more areas for women in particular to talk about the various things that that have impacted us coming from men in our lives. Not just predatory behavior, but also like dating a narcissist, or what have you. I think it's opened us up a little bit, to be able to say more words about how men in our life have impacted us.
As we wrap up our interview today, we always end with allowing the guests to give an affirmation. Could you share with the audience maybe an affirmation that you like to use for yourself, or something that you think that women need to hear right now? I
have sort of personal philosophy, right? And so doing what you say you're going to do is definitely a part of it. And I'm not sure if that qualifies as an affirmation per se.
Yeah, I think it can.
Yeah, it's just a part of how I live, but that's something that for me is incredibly important. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think that my life has been about staying independent and living for establishing goals, and then, going for dreams on my own terms.
Yes.
I think that a lot of times women especially have people in their lives who are trying to tell us, how to live, or, trying to insert their opinions or their perspectives, where we may not necessarily want them. And maybe it's even well-meaning. It's probably just, it's very well-meaning, but we are very influenced by what other people, tell us to do, how other people live their lives, And so, I think that do what you say you're going to do is just sort of a part of this whole philosophy of, I guess, set your own dreams and, go for your goals on your own terms, like whatever your goals are, they are your own goals, and so, be independent and go for your goals and go for your dreams and live your life on your own terms.
I love it. That's perfect. I love it. Amy, thank you so much. Amy Dubois Barnett, our special guest today for Respect My Crown. You have been such a blessing to us today, and thank you for sharing. And we talked you to death. You can go finish your coffee. It's probably cold now.
It's actually gone now.
Oh, is it gone? I should drink it that fast. Thank you so much, Amy.
Okay, thank you. I hope you have a great day. Thanks, everybody.